Chapter 10 is a very long chapter with a lot of robust content. It will be split over Module 8 and Module 9. The first part of Module 8, we're going to talk about physical fitness, balance, and flexibility. Our objectives are to identify and define the components of health-related physical fitness, identify and define the risks of fitness testing, administer balance and flexibility tests, and administer strength and endurance tests. First, we're going to review the brief history of physical fitness testing. Originally, physical fitness was essential to human survival. This included being able to walk, run, balance, lift, carry, throw, etc. During the Industrial Revolution, the necessity of physical fitness for survival disappeared. In the early 1900s, it became the focus of physical education. This focused on testing on physical abilities such as motor ability, including jumping, climbing, lifting, vaulting, and running. The Playground Association of the Americas Athletic Badge Test was introduced for boys in 1913 and introduced for girls in 1916. In the 1930s and 1940s, World War I and World War II had become the driving forces for physical fitness promotion and new test development. A large proportion of young men were found physically unfit for military service in defense of the nation during these decades. This resulted in a tremendous extension of physical education requirements for youth. The goal of this was to get young men and boys prepared for military service if another war broke out. Moving into the 1950s, in 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower established the President's Council on Youth Fitness in response to a cross-country study which found American children were less fit than their European peers. In 1958, the American Alliance for Health, Physical Education, and Recreation, or APHR, developed the first APHR youth fitness test. This included cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength and endurance, athletic performance like the 50-yard dash, and military preparedness of youth, which included a softball throw. This test is a norm reference test. Can you think about why the softball throw may be a good test for military preparedness? Softball throwing was a good preparedness tool in order to throw grenades in military situations. Moving into the 1960s, President John F. Kennedy was an advocate for promoting physical fitness in both youth and adult populations. Part of JFK's preparedness was because of the threat of the Cold War. In 1966, President Johnson introduced the President's Challenge, which was designed to help motivate movement regardless of activity and fitness level. Additionally, in the 1960s, in 1968, Dr. Kenneth H. Cooper published Aerobics, a 12-minute running test to measure aerobic fitness. Moving into the 1970s, the focus of physical fitness testing began to change. For the previous 30 years or so, physical fitness testing had been focused on military preparedness and skills that were transferable to that environment. However, in the 1970s, due to an increased concern of chronic diseases, a new concept, which was termed health-related fitness, was developed. This existing motor and sport-centered fitness tests were then relabeled as performance-related fitness. In 1977, Dr. Charles L. Sterling developed a fitness report card, which was further developed as FitnessGram at the Cooper Institute. Some of you may be familiar with the FitnessGram battery of tests that are still sometimes used today. Moving into the next decade, the 1980s, physical fitness has continued to see the changes that had been established in the 70s, this health-related physical fitness. Ayford published the initial test for health-related fitness in 1980. This was the first to employ criterion-referenced evaluation. If you recall, this same organization had published a youth fitness test in 1958. However, that was a norm reference test. This 1980 version is criterion referenced. This test was also the first to include cardiorespiratory function, musculoskeletal function, and body composition. It employed criterion referenced evaluation based on norm referenced percentiles. This test is defined as a multifaceted continuum extending from birth to death. It ranges from optimal ability in all aspects of life through high and low levels of different physical fitness to severely limiting disease and dysfunction. When it's looking at norm reference percentiles, what that means is, for example, those below the 25th percentile should receive special attention and be strongly encouraged to improve their physical fitness abilities. The U.S. Public Health Service conducted 2 national children and youth fitness studies, the NCYFS 1 and 2, in 1985 and 1987, respectively. In 1996, the Physical Activity and Health, a report of the Surgeon General, was released by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This was a landmark scientific presentation of the health benefits of physical activity and fitness. This report summarized the physiological and psychological benefits of a physically active lifestyle. It provided guidelines for the amount of physical activity individuals should engage in to accrue health benefits. As we move into the 2000s, the health benefits is still a significant focus of physical fitness testing. In the 2000s, the U.S. government established a public health objective to improve levels of physical activity and fitness, largely through its initiative called Healthy People 2000. This has now been updated to Healthy People 2030. Additionally, in the 2010s, in 2012, the CDC conducted the National Youth Fitness Survey to evaluate the health and fitness of children age 3 to 15. Additionally, the Institute of Medicine created the Committee on Fitness Measures and Health Outcomes in Youth. Now that we've discussed the history of physical fitness testing in the U.S., we're going to focus on what is physical fitness. So the definition of physical fitness is a multifaceted objective with different meanings for different people. That's a very broad and vague definition. However, 2 factors provide the framework for defining physical fitness for any person. These include the purpose of the test and the defined population to be measured. These are 2 questions that need to be able to be answered when doing any sort of physical fitness testing. If we look at Table 10.1, this shows us the populations and purpose of physical fitness testing. Remember, those were the 2 questions or factors that we needed to answer on the previous slide. This table shows the relationship between health-related fitness, performance-related fitness, and functional fitness, as well as impairment. So if we look in the first column, health-related fitness, that is our objective. And then our population that we can test health-related fitness are youth, adults, older adults, or persons with mental and physical disabilities. For our performance-related physical fitness tests, the populations that we're going to target for those tests are the youth and our athletes. Those are our higher level tests, and the goals and objectives are different. We can also use physical fitness testing for diagnosis, but these are most appropriate for persons with mental and physical disabilities, athletes, or persons who are ill or injured. A lot of military preparation tests are done in youth, so that's making sure that our youth and young adults have the proper physical fitness levels in order to be able to be effective military members. And then we have our functional capacity tests, and those are appropriate for youth, adults, older adults, as well as persons with mental and physical disabilities. This figure here is figure 10.1 from your textbook. This is a graphical representation of the data from the previous table. We can use this data to classify our different populations based on different data. So if we look at the top graph, that's our overall fitness definition compared to the population. If we look at the next one down, our main objective is to look at performance. Our two categories for performance are going to be typical or high. As we can see there, we can see that the right tail is shaded a little bit darker for that high performance category. If we look to the next graph, we can look at the health-related tests, and we can classify these individuals as either in the health fitness zone or needs improvement. Additionally, for our functional activity, we can classify as functioning or at risk. And then in the last graph, we can see if we're trying to determine impairments, we can see our mobile or our functioning group, and then the group that would be classified as ill. These are examples of what kind of data: criterion referenced or norm referenced data. These are all examples of criterion referenced data. As you can see, a certain criteria needs to be hit in order to change the classification, the darker shaded components. Health-related physical fitness is defined as the attainment or maintenance of physical capacities that are related to good or improved health and are necessary to perform daily activities and confront physical challenges. Components of health-related physical fitness include cardiorespiratory endurance, body composition, muscular fitness, including muscular strength, endurance, and flexibility, and bone health. In 2004, a report from the Surgeon General highlighted the importance of bone health, especially in older adults and women. Why might this have been a new focus? One of the reasons is that we lose bone density with age. Females tend to have smaller and less dense bones than their male counterparts, but they also have an increased risk at menopause because the estrogen levels fall, and estrogen helps to bolster bone health, which is why bone health is a component of health-related physical fitness. There is supporting evidence for health-related fitness. Physically fit and active groups have lower relative risk of developing fatal cardiovascular disease than less fit and active groups. The relative risk is the risk of mortality or morbidity associated with one group compared to another. An inverse relationship was found between death rates and cardiovascular endurance. If we remember previously, an inverse relationship means that as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. So as death rates, as cardiovascular endurance increases, death rates decrease. Table 10.2 highlights the health-related fitness components and benefits. So as a reminder, the components of health-related fitness include cardiorespiratory endurance, body composition, muscular fitness, and bone health. And then we can see the associated benefits with those health-related fitness components. Some additional evidentiary support for health-related fitness was done over the last 2 decades. So in 2010, it was found that people who suffer from obesity have higher rates of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. Additionally, an inverse relationship was found between muscular strength, obesity, and all-cause mortality after controlling for cardiovascular endurance. Overall, how we evaluate fitness testing has changed over the years. Initially, a lot of our data and tests were designed to be norm referenced, but have since shifted to criterion referenced. When the interest shifted to health-related fitness, there was a shift to use criterion reference standards, or specific criteria, or cutoff scores. Some tests do use norm reference data in order to evaluate the program. However, they tend to use criterion reference data when evaluating the individual. So we might look at norm data to evaluate a program as a whole, but criterion reference data for how the individual scores on the test itself.